Mike is a street vendor who stands on a deserted stretch of highway. He is alone, surrounded by endless roads and empty horizons. The road in front of him resembles a distorted face. His thoughts wander, and he begins to talk to himself. It is a moment of his inner isolation and loneliness. Suddenly his condition worsens, and he experiences a narcoleptic seizure. For a moment, his consciousness is consumed by the past, his childhood memories, where he sees his mother comforting him. This dream scrolls through frames of old home movies, moments of his youth when life was different. These memories resurface as vivid but painful moments, and in them, he seeks comfort. When the seizure passes, Mike returns to Seattle to fulfill his duties. He provides services to clients, and one of them, a wealthy older woman, invites him into her home. In this house, full of luxury and quiet, Mike meets two other prostitutes, Scott and Gary. This woman is a typical client, willing to pay for such services, but Mike falls asleep again, losing consciousness. When he wakes up in the morning, he finds that he is in Portland, Oregon with Scott, his friend, and this place becomes a new stage of their journey. Portland is the city where Mike and Scott face the reality of street life. Here they meet Bob Pidgey, their mentor, who runs a small gang of street boys and crooks hiding out in an abandoned apartment building. It's not just a place. It's a kind of family home for those who have lost everything but found solace in street life. Scott, the son of Portland's mayor, tells Bob of his plans when he turns 21. He will inherit his father's fortune and be able to get off the street. This promise suggests that there is a bright future for Scott. But Mike is still in search of his place, in search of his mother. Mike's dream of reuniting with his mother becomes the main motivation for their journey. Along with Scott, he travels to Idaho to find her. Along the way, Mike confesses to Scott that he is in love with him. But Scott reminds Mike of the reality of their relationship. Mike has a long history of using his sexuality as a way to survive. And in this moment, despite his feelings, he faces the harsh truth: he sleeps with men for money. It's his job, not romance. This conversation is important to their relationship, but it also highlights the contrast between their worlds and aspirations. Upon arriving in Idaho, Mike and Scott meet Richard, Mike's older brother. Richard tells a strange story about a man who may be his father, but Mike is adamant that he is not. A certainty burns inside him that Richard was the man who became his father. Richard, on the other hand, reveals the secret that their mother works as a maid in a hotel, and when Mike and Scott go to see her at work, they learn that she has gone to Italy to look for her family. This discovery becomes another reason for Mike's search and quest to find his mother, who at this point feels his world crumbling as the answer he has been searching for remains unclear to him. In desperation with the money they receive from Hans, the man who brought them to Portland, Mike and Scott travel to Italy. In Italy, they discover a country house where their mother worked as a maid and taught English. Carmela, a young woman who lives in the house, informs Mike that his mother returned to the United States several months ago. This message becomes the final blow to Mike, as his dreams of reuniting with his mother are dashed. While Mike is processing his loss, Scott falls in love with Carmela. Their relationship becomes the basis for a new phase in Scott's life, and he decides to return to America, leaving Mike alone in Italy. Back in the United States, Scott inherits his father's fortune after his death, and his life is filled with material wealth. But this fortune cannot bring him back to Mike, with whom his relationship has become too complicated. Scott's return to Portland, where he decides to start a new life, is not without its difficulties. Bob and his gang, despite the changes in Scott's life, try to bring him back into their circle, but Scott rejects them, at which point Bob has a heart attack that leads to his death. At Bob's funeral, a raucous farewell is organized, while in another cemetery, a few yards away, Scott says goodbye to his father. Mike, having survived all these events, returns to Idaho. He stands again on the very stretch of highway where it all began. His journey, full of pain, loss, and unresolved questions, comes to its finale. Mike is once again experiencing a narcoleptic seizure. Two strangers pull up in a truck, take his backpack and shoes, and drive off, leaving Mike all alone. Moments later, a man appears and picks Mike up off the road, putting him in his car. Who this man is, and where he is taking him remains unclear, but Mike's journey continues, perhaps in search of new meaning and new solutions.